Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael /PokeOz. In today's video, we're going to talk about booster boxes. I want to have a pretty honest and real conversation about investing in Pokemon card booster boxes and particularly what's happening in the Sword and Shield era and now the shift of money towards Scarlet and Violet and in more particular, Mega Evolution booster boxes and what this means as a whole for the hobby, for your investments that you've already picked up, and is there still plays to be made in Sword and Shield? So what we've seen lately is just exponential growth across the whole hobby. Like, I don't think there's been a more influential year in terms of overall growth, sales volume, money, interest in the hobby than what there has been in 2025. It's even made it to some pretty spooky financial outlets putting out, pages on how good an alternate investment Pokemon cards can be. So it's really gone mainstream. Like, Pokemon card investing has blown up more than ever. I think it blew up in 2020 when we saw the rise of the influencer in the Pokemon investing space, and it's also blown up in 2025 when we're sort of seeing the rise of actual investors pouring money, real money, and large amounts of money into the Pokemon card investing space. So with all that being said, this title certainly isn't clickbaity. I'm here to ease maybe some of your concerns when it comes to Sword and Shield booster boxes. So hence the sort of title, the rise and fall of Sword and Shield booster boxes. Now, the box prices haven't really fallen, but the sales volume certainly has. So let's take a look at a couple on the screen here and delve into what this means and my take on easing your mind around Sword and Shield booster boxes. So as we all know, there's a massive correlation, of course, or perhaps the better word is correlation isn't the word. Maybe fight. There's always a fight between supply and demand in any free market, and there is no exception when it comes to Pokemon cards. And at the moment, if we look at, I'm just going to bring heaps up on the screen here. We can bring Chilling Reign up on the screen here. This is straight off TCG Player, and what it will show us is the last couple of weeks in particular, there's been very, very low sales volume of Chilling Reign booster boxes, and as a result, what's happened to the price? It's completely leveled off. And I'm going to show a few more examples of this. It's not just Chilling Reign. If we jump into Silver Tempest, for argument's sake, you can see the exact same thing. Very, very low sales volume over the last 2 to 3 weeks, coinciding maybe with the launch of Mega Evolution, which we'll get into a little bit later in this video, and very stagnant booster box price. So we've seen growth, and now the last 2 to 3 weeks, it's very much leveled out. We can even jump into a stronger set like Lost Origin. Lost Origin is a stronger Pokemon card set than both Chilling Reign and Silver Tempest, but same thing. At its current booster box price where it's risen to, sales volume has dropped drastically over the last 2 to 3 weeks, which has resulted in a stagnation in the price. So the price of the booster box has very much leveled out. And even the giant of Sword and Shield that is Evolving Skies booster box, that has shown no immunity to the same thing. Over the last 2 to 3 weeks, sales volume of Evolving Skies booster boxes has well and truly dropped off. And as a result, we see a massive flat line in the box price. So what does all this mean? Sales volume drops off, therefore price remains the same. I mean, it's just such simple economics, isn't it? If there's more demand for these boxes and more people are buying them, then of course we're going to see rises in price, as we've seen the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last 9 months, the last 12 months. That has been happening to all Sword and Shield booster boxes and all Scarlet and Violet era booster boxes. So what we're seeing here is just a drop in demand for the boxes. And look, this is where it comes into play. So a couple of things could happen here. Realistically, what this is showing us for Sword and Shield booster boxes is buyers don't want to really pay the current price. And two things can happen if buyers don't want to pay the current price. The seller, that is of course the people holding these booster boxes, the seller can hold firm. They can go, well, I'm not a store. I don't need to move this product straight away. I'm happy to wait for it to sell. So rather than having to move it in a day or 2 or 3 or a week to then pick up the funds to buy the next product like a store would typically have to do, because it's in the hands of the private market now, Sword and Shield. Like, all Sword and Shield booster boxes are in the hands of private markets. Like, you can't log on to Gameology here in Australia. You can't go into EB Games here in Australia and buy Sword and Shield booster boxes. It doesn't exist anymore. All Sword and Shield booster boxes are in the hands of the private market. And most people in the private market, unless they're desperate for money, are probably happy to sit on those prices and wait for them to sell. And that's where we see this flat line come through. So that's option one as a seller. You can just sit and wait and go, okay, whatever. If it takes me 3 weeks to sell this box rather than a day, all good. If it takes me 4 weeks to sell it, all good. I'm going to hold firm because I think that's where the market should have the price at. The second option that the seller can do, of course, is drop the price under market price to try and move it quicker. So if we take, for example, what's a chilling rain booster box at? 550 now, 560, somewhere around that, 580, I don't know, I haven't checked lately, but let's say it's around that price, 550 to 600. And you're sitting on TCG Player to sell, and it's been on there for 2 weeks and you haven't moved it. And you think, well, far out, like, I actually need these funds to move into something else because I want to make a play in Mega Evolution or Destined Rivals or whatever it might be, or I want to go on a family holiday, or, you know, I got this box listed, and this box listed because, you know, I want to make a bit more of a dent into my mortgage, whatever the reason might be. And you go, okay, well, it's not selling at that price. Option one, I can sit on it, or the second option is, let's drop the price of it. So let's drop it to 520. So it's, you know, 60 or 70 US dollars below market price. And then a buyer goes, hold on, this is cheap. I'm going to pick it up. I've picked it up below market. So then we see a move in the opposite direction, of course, in price, because that'll log on TCG Player, and that pulls through to a lot of the apps that use the data programming off things like TCG Player and eBay. And same thing, eBay, you could do the exact same thing on eBay. You know, lowest buy it now might be $570 for a chilling rain booster box. You list yours for $520. Well, of course you're going to sell it because it's $50 below market price. It's cheap. I work in the car sales industry, and the exact same thing happens with car sales. Like, if we can't move an item at market price and we really need to sell it because it's costing us interest or whatever the reason might be, or we want to invest those funds into a different car, well, of course, we'll drop it slightly below market price. And what do you know? The internet lights up an inquiry and eventually sell it. We sell it because it's below market price. That's exactly what happens in the card world here. But don't be scared. Don't be scared of any of that. So all of these box prices from Sword and Shield that have leveled out, and I say rise and fall, I don't use that again as clickbait. They have risen. Sales volume has been great for Sword and Shield booster boxes considering their age and the price they've gone to. But the volume of them has fallen in the last 2 to 3 weeks. But don't be afraid. And here's some of the reasons why I think it's happening. A, everyone's got sinking their teeth into Scarlet and Violet. And B, even more than that, everyone's sinking their teeth into Mega Evolution. People haven't seen a base set as good as Mega Evolution in a long, long time. I've heard from multiple sources that Mega Evolution is wanting to be ripped even more in some cases than Destined Rivals. Like, people are just loving Mega Evolution. They're loving the thrill of the chase for those gold cards. They're loving the SIR artwork on cards like the Gardevoir, the Venusaur, the Lucario, like the Latias. There are some really good looking chase cards inside this set that people are really sinking their teeth into it. And is that a coincidence that in the last 3 weeks that Mega Evolution has been out, that we've seen massive sales drops or decline? Not massive, but enough to level out the price in Sword and Shield boxes. I don't think it is a coincidence. I think there is some rhyme and reason there. Like, there's only so much money that can go around. There's not an infinite amount of money in the Pokemon card world. It seems to go and follow trends. And at the moment, the hot new product, of course, is Mega Evolution. And people are still wanting to buy up Scarlet and Violet sets like Destined Rivals, Paldea Evolved, etc. So that seems to be where a bit more of the bulk of the money's at. Now, don't be alarmed about that. And here's where I wanted to ease your mind a little bit. So I remember about 2021, of course, when Evolving Skies was coming out. We had Celebrations around the corner. Fusion Strike was sort of meh, but people still really wanted to chase that Gengar. We had Brilliant Stars around the corner with an Alt Art Charizard card and the reintroduction of Trainer Gallery. Pokemon was as hot as ever. Brilliant Stars booster boxes were so hard to pick up at retail. Celebrations, particularly the UPC, was impossible to pick up at recommended retail price. There was bots buying it out. It sort of felt like it was a small version of what it's like now. And with all that money and all that attention going towards it, this happened. Let me bring up these couple of graphs here. So I'm going to bring up a couple of booster box examples that I bought back in late 2019, early 2020, which was Unified Minds, Unbroken Bonds, and Cosmic Eclipse. So when these three boxes came out, when I bought them, they were relatively cheap. And we saw a little bit of appreciation somewhat quickly. But then in 2021, when all this money and all this attention turned towards Evolving Skies, Brilliant Stars, and Celebrations, the money going towards ripping packs like Cosmic Eclipse and Unbroken Bonds and Unified Minds did dry up. And as you can see from these graphs, and I know it's taken a massive hit in the last 6 months really, we constantly see this struggle between supply and demand. And when demand is high, of course, we see increases in the price. And when demand is low, we start seeing this stagnation or maybe even a little pullback in the price. But that's nothing to be alarmed about. That's just natural. If I'd sold out of fear, for argument's sake, my Cosmic Eclipse, Unified Minds, and Unbroken Bonds booster box back in 2021, even though I might have made a couple of $100 US profit off them, just like you might have made a couple of $100 US profit off a Chilling Reign or a Lost Origin or a Fusion Strike booster box, if I sold them back then, I would have missed the massive gains that have come in the future. Look at the prices of them now. The prices of them are absolutely insane. So that's what I urge people not to get scared about. So yes, okay, there's been a retraction in sale of Sword and Shield booster boxes. Maybe even they've flatlined in price, and maybe even they might even pull back in price a little bit and become a little bit cheaper. That is no reason to be afraid whatsoever. These booster boxes over time will perform really, really well. What you've got to remember is, and I'm not saying this is gold star level, but they are, in my opinion, etched in history a little bit, alternate art Pokemon cards. Think about the demand and how many people want to chase cards like the Giratina, the Umbreon VMAX, even the Blaziken from Chilling Reign, the Gengar from Fusion Strike, the Charizard from Brilliant Stars. Having a PSA 10 alt art set will be really, really important to collectors in the future. Again, I'm not saying it's gold star level, but think of that sort of nostalgia. People that grew up in the EX era, that gold star, PSA 10 collection, we've seen some of them go for massive dollars. There was another sale just recently for over 800,000 US, but it didn't have the Torchic inside there. It wasn't complete. The Torchic is one of the lowest pop gold star cards from EX Team Rocket Returns. And crazy prices. I'm not saying old arts will do that. The population in PSA 10 is way too high for them to ever become extremely expensive, but they're still going to be extremely, extremely sought after. And as a result, those booster boxes will be extremely, extremely sought after. So I wouldn't be concerned in any way, shape or form about the price of Sword and Shield booster boxes or this somewhat pullback that we might be seeing in demand for them at the moment. In 5 years' time, I can guarantee you that Fusion Strike, Lost Origin, Chilling Reign, Evolving Skies will be very, very, Brilliant Stars, whatever, will be very, very expensive booster boxes. So don't worry about it at all. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz, and I'll catch everyone next time.